I didn't have a problem with the styling of the old Kia Sportage. I didn't think it was actually that ugly, but we used to recommend it to people a lot in that segment, and buyers would say, yeah, I like the Kia badge, I love the warranty, pricing looks right, but it's a little bit ugly. Well, I reckon Kia's fixed that now. This is the all-new Sportage, it's the 2022 model, and have a look at it. Cuts a pretty sharp figure on the road, doesn't it? So now you don't have to run off and buy a Hyundai Tucson or a Toyota RAV4. This car has grown up. In fact, it's grown every which way. It's grown up, out, all over the place. It's actually a much more modern design as well, but I think it's all the better given that it's a bigger vehicle. It's much more practical in this medium SUV segment. So we're going to take a closer look at the Kia Sportage, and in this review we're going to look at the styling, we're going to take a close look through the cabin, and then of course we'll have a look at the luggage space as well, and then finally we'll get it out on the road, see how it drives. At the time of testing, the Sportage range starts from $35,690, drive away for the S petrol with an automatic transmission. As tested, our GT line petrol with the 1.6 litre turbo and dual clutch automatic costs $51,990 drive away. Standard feature highlights include twin 12.3-inch screens for infotainment and driver information, wireless charging, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, an 8-speaker Harman Kardon sound system, electric driver and passenger seat with memory for the drivers, a panoramic sunroof, 19-inch machined alloy wheels and bi-LED headlights. Our GT line tester sits at the top of the petrol range. Across both petrol and diesel engines, you can choose from entry-level S, SX, SX Plus and finally GT line, depending on how far your budget will stretch. When you make a vehicle proportionately bigger, it's not always easy to make it look like it isn't just a big bulky block, but I think Kia's designers have done a really good job here. This is an attractive SUV from any angle really. Now first of all, there's not too much black cladding. I like the amount that Kia's used, and just because it's an SUV doesn't mean that it needs to be festooned with black cladding like some of them are, so that's a good start. I think this LED signature is really attractive. It's got shiny black accent around it, but I just like that sharp look, the way it's got that hook to it, and it really defines the outer edges of the vehicle. And then of course you've got the grille design across the front, which is quite bold, but it's not too in your face, and it doesn't really look ugly. I don't think this is going to polarize people at all. The final element of the frontal styling that I think is worth mentioning is that new Kia badge. It's amazing how quickly that new design and the new corporate logo, I guess, has really taken off. People initially went, oh, I'm not so sure, I like the old Kia badge, I don't know why they've changed it. Well, now you look at that and you kind of can't imagine it any other way. I think it looks really classy on the front end of this new Sportage. Let's take a look at the styling at the rear. I think where a lot of automotive design goes wrong is when the design team comes up with a really dramatic either front or rear end, doesn't matter which end of the vehicle it is, and then gets to the other end and kind of goes, oh well, we've run out of ideas, that's all we've got in the bank. Now often it's the front of the vehicle that's got that really sharp look, and you get to about here, 3/4 of the way down, and they just go, oh yeah, roll the arm over. Kia designers haven't done that with the new Sportage. As I said, we do like that sharp, distinctive styling at the front of the vehicle, but I think the rear matches it as well. They haven't gone overboard either. Those aren't huge big tail lights like a lot of SUVs have. They're quite minimalist in the actual size of them, but they're visible, they're classy, and they really do signify the rear end of this vehicle. I like the side styling as well. As we said with the front, there's not too much black plastic cladding. I do like the fact that the window line comes up as the roof line comes down and it meets there at the back. But it's important to note that that dramatic styling doesn't negatively affect the functionality of the vehicle. Now by that I mean you can still see out that rear window. So often swoopy styling at the rear affects rear 3/4 visibility. It doesn't really eat into too much of that with the new Sportage. So that's an important thing, and I think it's the fact that Kia has done a really good job of balancing function and styling. This is a quality cabin. Now let's start with the execution of the fit and the finish. high quality materials. That's where it really begins with this cabin. There's soft touch surfaces. Everywhere that your elbows will rest or anything you come into contact with feels like it's high quality. The fit and the finish beyond that is also excellent. I like the way that Kia's opted for this fake wood grain, I guess you'd call it, but I prefer that to the piano black. I've spent the last 5 minutes in here trying to get rid of all the fingerprints because I really don't like piano black in a cabin. I think it always gets fingerprints on it, so I like the fact that Kia's minimised the use of it. The centre point of the cabin from the driver's seat are these screens, two 12.3 inch screens. They're huge, they're visible from every angle, they're good in all sorts of light. And I like the fact that you can customise them. If you're running your phone there, obviously you can run your driver-related information here as you would, but you've got navigation stuff you can run through the centre screen as well. And they're just really well laid out. The gentle curve to them is quite effective as well. You might not think that that would work, but it actually does. The next part about the cabin that I think is really important to mention is the way that Kia's really tidied it all up. And in fact, if you sit here as the driver and you look across here, there's a central command system that actually works really well and it's neatly laid out. The switches on the steering wheel here kind of line up with this center bar through here. And I love the fact that Kia's made that interactive. So at the moment it's set up to run the climate control, but if you hit that little button there, it comes up with your media command. So what that means is you don't need two layers of switches because you've got one layer that does two jobs. It's really cleverly designed and it's nice and neat. Same goes for the steering wheel controls. As we've said with Kia for some time, they're really easily laid out. They don't get in the way when you're driving and using the wheel, but they're easy to understand which switch does what. Heated and cooled seats, leather trim, suede as well. The fact that the heating and cooling is nicely arranged there is well laid out also. The one thing I don't love about this cabin or about the Sportage is the dial. I'm not a big fan of the dial for the automatic gearbox. I don't understand why a lever would be any more, I guess, in your way, I suppose, than the dial is. I understand why manufacturers do it, because if you look at it, it really does clean up that area there, because you've just got driving stuff here like auto hold, park assist cameras, things like that, and then the dial, and it's nice and flush. But still, I would prefer a lever. You've got clever adjustable cup holders in here. I think they work really well. Heaps of storage, plenty of room for that. Wireless charging there, which works really well, and you can still go with a USB cable. I think what you can see though when you sit in here, obviously this is a new vehicle for Kia, but what they've done is they've really thought long and hard about the best way to make this vehicle easy to live with for family buyers, for people who drive the car every day. There's plenty of storage, it's comfortable, visibility is excellent, and I think perhaps most importantly, it's something we've said about Kia for a while now, this really does feel like a premium cabin. New Sportage is bigger than the old model, and I reckon, despite the fact that it looks bigger from the outside, it's here in the second row where you can most tell how much it's grown. There's heaps of room back here. Now, first of all, the seats are pretty comfortable. They're not as sculpted as the front seats, but that's as you'd expect. The backrest is adjustable, so you can move that forward and back depending on how you want to sit. But that's my driving position there, and look how much room I've got. Heaps of knee room, plenty of room under the seat for my feet. Headroom's good. I'm not hitting the roof, which is great. And it doesn't feel like the roof is closing down. Interestingly too, and you could say this about the front part of the cabin, even though this is a fully black trimmed cabin, it doesn't actually feel too dark in here. So I think Kia's done a really good job there. Now onto the amenity beyond the room, because there is plenty of space. You've got useful door pockets, bottle holder there, map pocket here, takeaway bag hook behind the seat, which is quite useful. Air vents there for the second row. No controls, but air vents there still, so that's good. And you're looking around there thinking, hang on, there's no USB ports for devices. Well, that's because they're up here in the seat backrest. Now, that might look a bit weird because we're used to seeing them there, but I actually think it's quite clever, because what it does, especially if you've got someone in the middle seat, it keeps the cables up and out of the way rather than down there, so they're less likely to get kicked and damaged. So I think that's actually quite a clever move in terms of the way Kia's laid out this second row. Of course, there is a pull-down armrest there with some cup holders, so if there's only two of you, you can get that down and be a little bit more comfortable. But overall, I just think there's heaps of room back here. It feels light, airy, nice tall windows. You can see out. You don't feel like you're squashed into the back of a small vehicle. So if you're a family buyer, as so many people in this medium SUV segment are, and you've got kids who are coming into their teenage years, they're getting taller, you're carrying more gear around, this segment is growing with the family, so to speak, but it makes a hell of a lot more sense now than it used to, because the old Sportage almost felt like it was a segment smaller. So, electric tailgate, not the fastest in the world, but not too slow either. Really sturdy luggage cover. We like these, they're properly retractable. It doesn't have a fiddly connection here, so when you pull it out and lock it in, it stays where it's supposed to stay. You've got a 12-volt outlet back there. You've got some hooks for tie downs here. Remote seat releases, which are good, so you can just pull those levers and the seats fold forward. They're a 60-40 split, and they go right flat through, so that's handy as well. Lift the floor up. Typical of Kia, you've got a full-size spare in there, which I think is critical really for Australian buyers, because if you're going to take this vehicle on longer road trips out into the country, out into the bush, you could be in more remote areas, and I think a full-size spare is really, really important for that kind of thing. Again, this floor is sturdy. I'd probably opt for a rubber mat. Most of the manufacturers offer them as aftermarket once you buy the vehicle, because it's a bit slippery, so if you're carrying stuff around in the boot, I would go with the mat. But as I said, this is just a really good, useful luggage area. It's competitive in the segment. It works really well whether you need the second row or you don't. So if you need to carry longer things and you're not using the second row, fold those flat. And really, I'll show you how easy that is. You just hit one of these levers like that, and then away you go. So as I said, that goes flat, and there you're right through, fully flat, so you can carry longer items. Flexible, useful, cleverly designed. The 1.6 litre turbo is a punchy unit mated to a 7-speed dual clutch, making 132 kilowatts and 265 newton metres, while using a claimed 7.2 litres per 100 kilometres on the combined cycle. On test, we used mid-9s around town, with the live highway reading showing low 7s. Now, it has to be said, I'm not the biggest fan of dual clutch gearboxes in applications like this. I'm okay with them in sports cars or performance vehicles. I don't love them in vehicles like this, which are essentially a family conveyance to run around town. However, the DCT that Kia has used in the new Sportage is pretty good. It's not absolutely perfect. There's a few little hesitation things that you notice, and occasionally at light on-off the throttle application, you do feel a little bit of a gap in the way that it delivers the power. However, apart from that, and once you're on the move, it's very, very smooth. So that's an impressive thing. I think the turbo engine is good. It works really well with that DCT, and it's generally quite smooth in the way that it delivers its power. So even if you ask it to rev right through to red line, it doesn't sound like you're really taxing it too much and making it work too hard. In terms of the way that the Sportage rides and handles, the steering is excellent, the brakes are excellent, it's comfortable, and as you can probably hear right now in this video, its cabin ambience is excellent. It's very, very quiet. You may not be able to see it, but it's blowing a gale outside today. It's quite windy. There's no noise coming into the cabin at all. We're rolling along between 50 and 60 here. No noise coming into the cabin at all, no tyre noise, really impressive. The way it rides bumps is excellent as well, and it's generally just a really comfortable medium SUV to spend your time in. I reckon it'll be a good one if you like taking longer road trips as well. Sportage gets a comprehensive suite of active and passive safety equipment standard, as you'd expect from any new Kia. That includes autonomous emergency braking with junction support, lane follow assist, blind spot monitoring and rear cross traffic alert, with automatic models adding adaptive cruise control, an electric parking brake, and the ability for blind spot and rear cross traffic systems to brake for obstacles rather than just detect them. Also standard is a centre airbag designed to prevent passengers' head clashing in a side impact collision, a step towards a 5-star ANCAP safety rating. Kia's excellent 7-year unlimited kilometre warranty is in place, along with roadside assistance for the same period. Servicing is required every 12 months or 15,000 kilometres, whichever comes first. Kia offers a capped price servicing plan for the duration of the warranty that will set you back $3,988 over 7 years for the 1.6 litre turbo petrol variants and $3,479 for the 2 litre petrol models, and finally $3,672 for diesel variants. As always guys, don't forget to hit like if you've enjoyed the video, click on subscribe so you stay up to date with all of our latest content, and the full review for the Kia Sportage and everything else we test drive is over at Drive.com.au. Now, what do we think of the Kia Sportage? Well, I've got to tell you, after a couple of days spent running around in this thing, I am genuinely impressed. As I said at the outset of this video, I didn't actually have an issue with the old Sportage. I didn't think it was ugly. Some of you did. Let us know in the comment section below actually if you did, but I didn't have a problem with the design. I did, however, think a couple of things. One, it was starting to age. It felt like it was really getting on compared to newer vehicles in the segment, and it was too small. It was a compact medium SUV at best. It almost felt, like I said, a segment smaller than this new Sportage, which feels like a much bigger vehicle. And I think that makes a big difference for this new Sportage. It's more user-friendly, it's more practical, it's got more space inside, and the fact that it's still such a good thing to drive remains a positive. I think this is a really impressive vehicle. I think Kia's done a really good job. It remains good value for money, and I think the fact that it drives as well as it does is probably just an added part of the bargain. For me though, the most important thing about this vehicle is this segment now has some competition. For a while, it's been a little bit same. We've found ourselves saying, buy a Toyota RAV4 if you want a medium SUV. But now you've got new Kia Sportage, you've got new Mitsubishi Outlander, which impressed us recently at launch. So it seems like the medium SUV segment in Australia is really starting to hot up.